Good morning, race fans. It is Daytona 500 day. I am super excited to be back with the NASCAR live shows on Sundays. Sometimes it'll be Saturday nights. It all depends on the schedule, what's going on. But I am back into full-time fantasy. The last couple of years, I've been part-time here and there doing the fantasy, but I am back now, pretty much full-time doing the fantasy. So super excited to bring these shows back on Sundays. I know they were super popular over the years of doing the daily fantasy sports. So yeah, this year we kick off the Daytona 500. We've already gone through the truck race and the Xfinity. Well, it's not Xfinity anymore. It's a Riley Auto Parts Series. I know some people still call it the Busch Series, so I'm going to screw that up about, I don't know, 43 times this year, however many races there are. So with that, let's move forward a little bit and just kind of waiting for a few more people to pop in here. If you've got questions during the show, please just throw them in the chat. I'll answer driver questions, lineup setup questions, cheat sheet questions. Um, the Daytona 500 is a little bit different in terms of lineup setup, of kind of along with any of the super speedways and how it works. If you're fairly new to super speedway racing, not really looking at the practice times too much. We'll go over it a little bit, but more or less what we're looking for is upside, and to get that upside, we are looking for place differential is the first thing that we are going to be looking at when building lineups for super speedways. So that's something we're going to concentrate on. That's something you're probably going to see with my highlighted picks. And for today, I'm going to give all my picks that are on the cheat sheet. You will see that here. Each and every week, we do cheat sheets for the Truck Series, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, as well as the Cup Series. So all that information that's on here, I'll just go over it really quickly here. On the main cheat sheet, we've got driver, we've got car info, DraftKings and FanDuel seller. We've got track history by placement over the last 10 races of each race. We've got some averages, laps led over the last 2, 5, 10. This one, I went a little bit different with the Daytona 500s and not only have Daytona 500 info here, um, the average finish laps led, DK and FanDuel averages over the last 2 and the last 10 races at Daytona overall. But I've also got top tens at Daytona over the last 10, top tens in just Daytona 500s. I've got average finish at the Daytona 500s, laps led at the Daytona 500, just to kind of separate it a little bit because this is one of the biggest races of the year. I mean, it's the first race of the year, but it is a little bit different in NASCAR where it's kind of like the Super Bowl. People say the Super Bowl of races for the season comes at the start of the year. So I've got that info on there. We've got track type history, which this week, like I said, is super speedways. So we're going to be looking at each year. We've got 2 races at Daytona, 2 at Talladega, 2 at Atlanta. The Atlanta race used to be a mile-and-a-half intermediate track. They changed some of the setup there so that what we see now is more of a super speedway drafting style race. So it's a bit of a hybrid, but I do mix it in there because it is the same style of lineup builds. So I like to look at that information. We've got season form. As the season goes on, we're going to have current form, so kind of like the last 5 races info we can compare against overall season. And then we've got practice and qualifying info, which most weeks is going to be really critical into our research. This week we've got 3 different practice sessions that the drivers went. So we've got their time, best lap in that practice. We've got their ranking of all 3 practices. Then we average all those times together, rank it here. And as you can see in my model this week, the place differential plus, that's really just the flip of where they're starting because I wanted to give a lot of weight in the overall model to guys that are starting at the back. Because obviously those guys that can start at the back, move forward, are going to gain a lot of place differential points, and those usually are going to be the guys that are going to be at the top of your DraftKings lineups should they survive. Okay, so moving over, then this is your customizable model. So if you want to create a customizable model, hey Dane, how's it going today? Happy Daytona 500 day. Yeah, so if you want to customize the model, all you have to do, go up to the top, hit File, make a copy, name it whatever you want, and then you'll have access. You'll have your own sheet that you can play around with these weights up here in the orange, and that will change the weight and change the overall ranking. Other tabs that we use on the sheet here, the DK and FanDuel Fantasy Matrix. So it lists the drivers, their starting position. It tells you how many points they need for 4x, 5x, and 6x. So then we can say, like William Byron, if he finishes 10th, with no laps led, no fast laps, which we're not looking at this week. That's something that we will look into adding to the fantasy matrix going forward on your intermediate tracks, your short flat tracks, your short steep tracks, things like that. But for the Daytona, Talladega, we pretty much sit here in the DK Fantasy Matrix, and we're just kind of looking at that. So he can hit 6X with the 10th place finish, actually with 11th place finish, you can tell here. Other drivers, like you can see, compared in the same price range, we've got Kyle Larson. For him to get those 60 points, he's going to need laps led to be able to get to that threshold that Byron is. And that's just simply because Byron has started 39th and Larson is starting 8th. So for fantasy, DraftKings FanDuel, we're looking at a lot more upside from these guys starting towards the back. And with Super Speedway Racing, it's a lot easier. We see a lot of guys come from the back to the front. That starting position doesn't really matter. Guys that go to backup cars and have to start from the rear, but maybe have a starting position of 20th to 30th. That doesn't bother me whatsoever because we could see William Byron, who, by the way, is going for 3 straight Daytona 500s. You could easily see him get up there, within probably the first 5-10 laps, getting towards the front. So that's the way we use the fantasy matrix. I've got the same over here for FanDuel. We've got the practice tabs if you really want to start breaking down practice information in your research. We've got track history, which on my personal sheet here we do not see, unfortunately, because it was a live feed. But on the main cheat sheet, it is there, and it is just showing you pretty much what you're seeing on here. It just breaks it down a little more and shows the results race by race, start, finish, laps led, average, running position, as well as DraftKings and FanDuel information. And then that's the same for the form. It is showing you the same thing that you're going to see on the main tab, just broken down a little bit more race by race to get some more there. I've got career Daytona stats this week I've added to this sheet. I've got the entry list, so something that is a super speedway staple when building your lineups is teamwork. We see a lot. Toyotas working together, Fords working together, Chevys working together, and then inside of those specific manufacturers, we also see teammates. So if you want to maybe build a Trackhouse Racing stack, you can go Chastain, Zillich, SVG. Not that I think that that's a good stack. I'm just saying if you're looking, this tab here really gives you a better idea, and I've sorted it by manufacturer and by organization as well. Yeah, Dane just mentioned in chat here, he's working on a new model. He's been working on it for PGA, and also he's becoming a full-time coder, people. Believe it or not, he's going to show us this going forward. Once we get that finalized, we're going to bring that up on one of our live shows as well. I'm going to get Dane to join me and kind of go over that a little bit. It's going to spit out some lineups for DraftKings and stuff like that. It looks at historical data, and the more information we feed it, the better that model actually becomes. So super excited. Liz, welcome back. It's been a long time. Um, yeah, looking forward to another fun NASCAR year. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to keep going with these shows. I love interacting with people. I remember back in the day, I know I've probably been doing this for, seems like probably 12, 13 years. When we started, these NASCAR live videos were just like the absolute core of my week. Um, So I love interacting with you guys. So thank you for joining me on this first show, and hopefully see you week after week after weekend. If as my schedule gets figured out, I'm hoping to possibly do some preview videos earlier in the week, or at least maybe a couple of short live videos for Truck and O'Reilly Auto Parts series. Nailed that series name 2 times in a row, so we're off to a good start here. Yeah, great year. So let's jump in. Let's break some of this information down. Let's talk about some DFS picks. As you can see here, it's a fairly simple. I mean, the chalk is obviously going to go towards guys that are starting near the back. William Byron, like I said, he's going for his 3rd straight Daytona 500. He's starting 39th. He's only 10,000 on DraftKings. He's going to be really, really probably the highest owned driver today, and for good reason. Now, with the variance that goes on with these super speedway tracks, a lot of crashes and stuff like that. If I was building in the 20 max or something like that, and you wanted to go say 50% um, William Byron, and then probably build those other half of those lineups without him, some people may even go think he's going to be 60, 70%, and they want to go more than the field. You go, get up there in that 15 out of 20 lineups with Byron in there. Now the problem is obviously to with those guys that are going to be chalk like that, that if something goes wrong, it's going to destroy all of your lineups. So maybe building here with the amount of variance, I don't like to go that heavy on one driver. If I'm going, let's just use 10 as a number that's just easy to figure out the numbers with. If I'm going 10, Byron, I'm probably looking at doing four, five max with Byron in it. And then what I want to do is probably Byron, Cindric, Busher, um, being a core three. I'd maybe do those guys in three of those five lineups, and then Byron, and maybe not use Busher and Cindric because they're going to be super chalky as well, and pivoting a little bit. So something in terms of lineup building. Oh, happy. Yeah. All right. Happy Pirate. Thanks for joining. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Happy Daytona Day, and let's get at this and build some lineups for sure. So some strategies, when I'm building the lineup, usually out of those six drivers at super speedways, especially Daytona, Talladega, I am wanting at least four drivers, probably five starting outside of 20th. And then I'll just kind of play that wild card. If you want to mix up, if you think your lineup's super chalky, diving down to the 10th to 15th starting positions, you're going to get a lot lower owned drivers. Obviously, the upside may not be there, but just to have that driver, if he finishes the race, obviously, and picks up, even marginal points, his just having him in your lineup is going to offset maybe a super chalky guy that's maybe 30, 40% owned. You're going to get someone in that 10 to 15% ownership range, can set you off. But normally I'm not building a DraftKings lineup with anyone starting inside the top 10. Kyle Busch is like 0% for me for sure today. FanDuel, where you're only getting that half point for a place differential instead of that full point for a place differential, I will consider going a little bit, maybe even to eighth to 10th, but generally I'm sticking in that one driver from 10th to 15th, 15th to 20th. Maybe sometimes I'll get two in there. But like I said, I want at least four drivers starting outside of 20th. And today, where things shake out, you've got outside of the guys that are starting outside of 30th that really stand out. Look at them at the top of the board. Like I already talked about Byron. We got Austin Cindric, we got Chris Buescher, we got Ross Chastain. I'm probably going to want at least two or three drivers starting outside of 30th in almost every single lineup. Just looking at, again, going back to the fantasy matrix here, Byron only needs to finish 11th to hit 6x on his DraftKings salary. Austin Cindric, he's all the way back to 12th here because he needs 54 points for 6x. That's right in that 12th, 13th, 12th range. And this isn't counting if they get any fast laps or laps led out there. Chris Buescher starting like dead last year, only needs 50 points. That's a 17th place finish. Like if we go look at Chris Buescher here, and I wrote him up in my article over on Fantrax. So fantraxhq.com. Every week I do a preview article for DFS. I kind of preview the track, talk about some fantasy strategy, kind of what we're doing here, and then I go over my drivers. Now, in that article, the drivers that I mentioned are pre-qualifying, pre-practice. So guys that just kind of stand out in terms of track history, track type history, that sort of thing. But the more important thing when it comes to NASCAR is after practice and qualifying, and that's what this cheat sheet does, and that's what this live show kind of is geared around. Is now that all the information's in, which direction are we going? How are we building our lineups? How are things going to shake out? So we're looking at Chris Buescher here, three straight top tens at Daytona overall. Five of his last six races have resulted in a top 10. He's won here in the summertime in 2023. So as you can see here, six top tens in his last 10 races at Daytona. Really good. He's got two top tens at Daytona 500. He's got a pretty good average finish of 15.8 at the Daytona 500. He's even got some laps led in there. Going to last year, looking at overall the six races on the super speedway races, he had three top tens in those six races, 11.8 average start. So generally we weren't using him that much because he was starting towards the front, but starting 41st. Definitely going to want him in there. And that's why we see him only needing 17th place finish to hit that 6x. So, I mean, if he gets inside, like even at fifth here, we're looking at 7,500. Let's go and just divide that. So he's going to get 75 points. You're looking at about a 9x upside with the fifth place finish here. That is incredible. And if you can get three or four of those guys that are hitting 8 to 10x in your lineup, you can definitely afford to have one of those guys maybe start at 13th or 12th. That's only getting you like 5x. Like for instance, let's say we pivoted for GPP and went Christopher Bell, who's probably going to be low owned. He's only starting 12th. That's kind of getting in that zone where I do like him as a top 10 and as a bet today at plus 2,200. So if you think he's going to win the race and he goes and wins that race, he's still getting you 6x at a 12 um, starting position. So he can definitely crush that. He can get you 6x with just a third. So mixing someone in from that 10th to 15th starting position can definitely, like I said, when it comes to in terms of ownership in your lineup build, can offset the Chris Buescher and the William Byron if you're stacking those guys together. So keep that in mind and don't just build a lineup with everyone starting outside of 30th. Chances are one or two of them is going to crash to begin with. But if things do turn out, you're probably going to be splitting with a lot of people because, I mean, everyone knows by now we're looking at place differential at super speedway. Now, I missed this. Mike, nice to see you. Mike Gardner, good morning. Happy Daytona Day. I want everyone kind of go ahead. I want you to give me your pick to win before we go and talk about outrights. I've got a few that I'd like to discuss, the numbers that I like on DraftKings Sportsbook. Just throw in the chat there what you are thinking in terms of a winner today. Also, anyone that is new watching here isn't a member of Jagerbom's Fantasy Sports. You want to get in, you want a copy of this cheat sheet each and every week. Like I said, Truck Series, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, as well as the Cup Series, cheat sheets. We've got Discord chat. We've got, like I said, the customizable model, everything that I've shown you here so far. We've got a special promotion going on right now. You can get access to actually all of our sports, which right now I think we're running 10 sports that are live. We've got cheat sheets for all of them. We've got coaches for all of them. We've got picks, ranks, cores in chat coming up. We've got injury information, lineup information, all for $5. $5 for your first month gets you access to our all sports package. Regular price on that is $25 per month. You can also get a yearly package, but if you just want to get in, you want to get the NASCAR information, you get everything else. You can come check us out for just $5. And I'm going to drop that link. It's actually in the description below, as well as I'm going to chase the Elliott. I've been waiting for that. It's been a long time since I've seen that chase the Elliott in chat. So going to give that one a star right there for sure. Sign up link I'm going to throw in the chat here right now. Like I said, you can also find it in the description, and you're going to want to use code. So when you go and choose the all sports package and you're in the checkout, you want to use code Jaeger5, all capital letters, Jaeger5. It's going to get you that $5 for the first month. Excellent price for, like I said, 10 plus sports, cheat sheets, picks, rank scores, etc. So yeah, he's got Chase the Elliott. I love that. I'm going to jump in. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but I'm just going to go down the board, talk about some other guys that maybe stand out. Denny Hamlin, it's been a rough few years for him at Daytona. It's been kind of a rough offseason as well, family and personal related. So he has started in 22nd. He's got a lot of success here. 3 Daytona 500 wins. It's been a while, but still 22nd. Probably someone I'm going to move to a blue, which is a secondary. And for anyone that is new and wondering what these colors are, green are my core plays, and blue are secondary plays, and then yellow are going to be the value plays each and every week. And it's pretty much the same for FanDuel and DraftKings alike. So you can use the drivers on either site that you wish. We're also going to talk some DraftKings Pick 6 plays as well, and that's something I'm going to be adding to the sheet coming soon, probably going into the Atlanta race next week as well. So we got Bubba Wallace. He's been kind of up and down. Last year was not a good Daytona year for him. 2024 was a great year, 6th and 5th. Not bad in 2023. 2022, 11th and 2nd. He got a 3rd in the summer race in 2021. So he's had a good run here, starting 27th. Austin Cindric starting 36th. Alex Bowman, I wrote him up in my Fantrax article. I was really hoping he'd start outside of 20th. Boom, there he is, starting 21st, which is probably going to help keep his ownership down a little bit with all these other drivers that are starting outside of 30th. So Bowman is one of those guys that I really like. I probably, after this race is over, I'm going to be doing my rankings in each price tier. I know for sure I'm going to have Bowman over Denny Hamlin here. I'm not really worried about price so much, the fact that he's $1,000 cheaper, because another thing with this super speedway race, and I know Kenny mentioned in chat, I don't know if he's here in the show chat today, but it was kind of funny. I'm just going to look for it here. He came in and said happy, and in air quotes, this build leaves 4,800 and somehow looks good day. That's totally true. You can leave anywhere up to like 5,000 in salary on the table, and that lineup is still going to look pretty good. And again, that just comes down to that place differential. You can easily jam four of these top guys in here because we've got guys down in the 5,000, 4,000 range that are starting outside 38. And look at these finishes. Lots of variance at the super speedway tracks. So don't ever worry about salary too much at these super speedway races. So yeah, Alex Bowman up there. Chris Buescher, like I said, he's going to be um, him and Byron are probably the two highest owned drivers on this slate. I would think probably in a tier of their own. I would guess very close behind. You're probably going to see that Chastain, Cindric in there as well. Bubba Wall's probably pretty close. So liking them. Ross Chastain starting 37th. Ryan Preece is probably going to be GPP low owned play, started 19th. I do like Reddick and Zilich down here. Zilich's first Daytona 500. So there's going to be a lot of variance there. So I don't think he's going to be super high owned, but I think we can take a shot with him starting outside of 30th. Tyler Reddick starting 26th. He was runner up last year. He's also had a runner up in the summer race. So someone that we can definitely look at with upside in that Toyota camp. Sticking with that Toyota camp, Eric Jones. He's had a really good run. Like that's five straight finishes of 18th or better. 12th and 8th in the last two Daytona 500s. He's only 7,300 starting 24th. So I just wanted to look at him real quick now that we're getting down this board. 43 points we need, 44 for a 6X finish, the 12th place finish. So I think he's definitely got that top 10 upside. I think there's a good chance of that top 10. I mean, everyone's almost got top 10 upside at Daytona. So definitely looking at that as a nice value play to get away from maybe the Zilich, the Allgaier starting forward is gonna give us some. He's gonna have some ownership attached to him. Other guys that are gonna be high on down here, probably Allmendinger. He's had some success. He had back-to-back sixth place finishes in 2023 and 2024 Daytona 500s. And then going over and just looking at some of these guys' track history from last year on the super speedways, Michael McDowell, super consistent. He's starting 10th, so really not looking towards him a whole bunch, but he had all six races. He's the only driver that had all six races on the super speedways last year, finished inside the top 20. Cole Custer stands out a lot at 23rd. He had two top fives and four top 20s on the super speedways last year. Fourth in the summer race as well, 21st at Daytona 500. And at 5,500 for him, we're looking for about 33 points for that 6X finish. That is right in that 16th, 17th range. So he doesn't need to finish much more than where he starts. Again, if he starts getting inside that top 10, we're looking at some big upside for him. So he is one of my favorite value plays today for sure. We got Jimmy Johnson, finished third in last year's Daytona 500. He announced that next year will be his last Daytona 500 start. So I can probably, out of this race and next year's Daytona 500, probably see another top 10. Probably some points of the race where he's up there up front. It's going to give the guys on TV something to talk about for a while, which is awesome. Sad to see him go out of the car as of next year. But starting 31st, getting back to the DFS side of things, he's someone that we can definitely look to. Ton of experience at the Daytona 500s, ton of success, and only 5,800 starting 31st makes sense as well. Custer would be my favorite down here, but definitely like all these guys. Ty Gibbs starting 20th, I think, is a nice fit as well. Someone that's probably not going to get too much ownership. With these guys starting deeper in the field, right above him, and then also right below him, so he kind of gets jammed in there a little bit as well. But he's got 8th, 16th, 5th, and 17th in his last four. Top 25 actually in six of his seven races at Daytona. Only one crash DNF in 2023 in the summer race. So he's someone I think we can look to starting 20. That means 7,100 going over to the matrix here, looking at Ty Gibbs, 7,100. We're looking at, he can finish 11th, and we're looking pretty good with that 6X. Yeah, I mentioned this before you jumped in, Liz. I am not worried about any of those drivers that are going to backup cars at Daytona whatsoever. It doesn't affect my line of decisions at all. I just want to find them. Give me just a second here. I posted it in chat. I think that was yesterday. Who's all going to a lineup car or going to a backup car? If you have that, oh, Chastain, Suarez, Busher, and Byron. Well, Byron was already starting at the back, so that doesn't really affect anything. Busher starting 31st, same thing. Suarez, Chastain 37th, definitely not. Suarez, I don't have in my lineups anyway. He's the one I would maybe worry about a little bit. I mean, I'm not playing him anyway, but starting 15th, starting back in 41st once that goes around to start the race there. It just adds a little bit more risk because he's got to, work his way through the field. But again, some of these guys are going to be working their way from the back to the front 3, 4, even 5 times during the race. But it does just obviously add a little bit more risk because coming through that field, that's where the wrecks are going to happen normally, is in the middle of that pack when guys are trying to make a move and get towards the front and get some of that clean air. So, no, he's not in my lineup. He wasn't a part of my lineup decisions to begin with. So definitely not going to be worried too much, especially those other three guys. So thanks for the question. Appreciate that. Um, so yeah, I'm going to go and build a few lineups now. We're going to start with FanDuel here. We want to look at obviously it's going to be a little bit chalky, but we're going to go Byron and Cindric, starting 39th, 36th. And then from there, that's leaving us. Let's get there 8,000. So a couple and go down the board here, and I'm just going to go over. And I think what I wanted to do was get Eric Jones in there because it really just opens everything up, being in the 5,000 range. It brings us back up to the top. So I mean, we can almost go any direction here. Denny Hamlin, I kind of like sticking here. I mean, you can go for the chalk, super chalk with Cindric, Byron, Busher. Get Eric Jones in there. It leaves us 98. So kind of anything in here. Christopher Bell, I think makes some sense. Tyler Reddick, we could go with. Um, you can leave more money on the table and go Alex Bowman, which would leave 2,300 on FanDuel. So definitely, I don't mind going that route as well. You can leave a little bit more and go Ty Gibbs. It's going to leave 3,800 on the table. Um, but like I said, what I'm going to do, I think I'm building 10 lineups on FanDuel today. So I'm going to take that Byron. I like the Byron Busher probably a little bit more. So I'm going to go Byron Busher probably in 4 of those 10 lineups and switch around the drivers. Do a couple probably really chalky ones with the place differential. One guy that maybe isn't place differential starting like Christopher Bell, like I talked about. But for the main, that's kind of going to be my main core right there is Busher Byron. Same kind of over on FanDuel, or sorry, DraftKings. Pricing's a little bit different, but we got Byron. Let's throw Busher in there. That leaves us at 79. Yeah, so we can pretty much go any direction we want here. Throw in Ty Gibbs. Cole Custer, a couple low guys that brings you up, and now 9,500 average for those final two drivers with that core right there. You can go any direction you want. That's 4 drivers starting outside of 20th. That is two more drivers starting outside of 30th, actually at the back of the pack. So you're really maximizing your place differential upside with that Bush or Byron. Again, if something goes wrong, obviously you're going to lose a large portion of your lineups if you're going super chalky on them. So just keep that in mind when you're building your lineups. And it's all dependent on, are you playing single entry? Are you playing 3 entry max? Are you playing the 20 entry max? Are you playing the 150 max and using maybe a lineup generator where you can go in and tweak how many lineups? So, I mean, 150 max, that's when you can start doing, um, you know, 50, 60% exposure to some of these drivers. But if you're playing just 1 max, 3 max, 5 max, somewhere in there with your contest selection, you're going to want to do things a little bit different and maybe not put all your eggs in one basket and maybe build, if it's a 5 max, you're doing two, or I'd say if I was doing a 5 max, I'd probably do 3 of those 5 lineups really chalky with the Byron and Busher mix, maybe also throwing in like Cindric in there as well and doing 3 lines with those 3 drivers where if they're all finishing, one of them wins, all 3 of them are inside that top 10. You're looking really good, and it's not going to matter if they're 50, 60, 70% owned, depending on now you can just tweak those other 2 drivers. So it all depends on how much risk you want to add to your lineup. If you're not worried about if one of those drivers of your core crashes and you're just going to build around, say, 4 drivers and then just swap out the other 2. So hit me up in the chat here. We're going to close things out here right away. I'm going to go over a few bets that I like on the DraftKings Sportsbook, as well as look at some DraftKings Pick 6 props. And we're going to be adding, like I said, we're going to be adding that pick six information to the sheet going forward as well. I do like that pick six contest in there. Or it's going to work for any prop site really. Information and research on the sheet. Okay, so and again, if you're looking for help with lineups after the videos are over, hit me up in Discord, either in a private DM in the NASCAR main chat, and we can definitely go over how you specifically want to build your lineups, what drivers you should use, what exposures, that sort of thing. You can also comment in the YouTube video below if you're watching the show after. Just leave us a question. I'll get to those questions as well leading up to the race, or you can hit us up on Twitter. We've got two Twitter accounts for the Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports. We've got at Jaeger_Bombs9. That's our main business account for Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports. You can also hit me up on C Durrell Fantasy. I created my own just personal one just for sharing my fan tracks. So I could do a lot of baseball content and stuff over there as well. So I wanted to have my own. So make sure to give me a follow over there. I'm going to throw that in chat if you're on Twitter. Would really appreciate a follow over there. Just got that one going the other day. Um, there it is. So for some bets here, DraftKings Sportsbook, start out with race winner first of all. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin at the top, plus 900. Not really interested in a plus 900 in those numbers at Daytona, Talladega. If we're talking, and we'll get into it, short flat tracks like Phoenix. If we talk about the intermediate tracks, Las Vegas, tracks like that where the practice information, you got a driver that's dominating. I don't mind going to the top of the board and paying up for some of those guys, plus 7, plus 800. But at Daytona, not really a fan. Logano plus 1,000. I actually like this plus 1,200 range with Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott. I'll be picking one of them. It's very close right now. I'm probably leaning to go with Chase Elliott. I do like that. I think he's due for a Daytona 500 win. I feel the same way about Blaney, to be honest. So I haven't really got that down, but I do like that plus 1,200 area a lot. But the guys that I have locked into my outright bets so far is Alex Bowman at plus 2,800. Where is he here? Plus 2,800. Alex Bowman, and then also Tyler Reddick at plus 4,000. So I mean, we're looking at Bowman here. He's got sixth, second, and fifth, six or better in three straight Daytona 500. As you can see, he's been very consistent overall at Daytona. He's been pretty darn good on the super speedways overall. Not that practice matters, but he was sixth, second, and sixth in those three practices, first overall in terms of those average laps in those practices. So that's someone that I really like betting outright at plus 2,800. I think that's a really nice number on him. And then Tyler Reddick, second, like talked about, he's been very inconsistent, but he's shown some upside. He's got a runner up in the summer. He's got a runner up in the Daytona 500, and plus 4,000 is a really nice number as an outright at Daytona. So I will take that as an outright as well. And then Christopher Bell plus 2,200, I think makes sense as well. I think the Toyotas will be up there, and I think um, as you can tell, he had back-to-back third. He actually had three third-place finishes in a four-race span at Daytona. Two of them coming at Daytona 500s. Last year wasn't so great at Daytona 500, but he again has got the upside plus 2,200, starting 12th. So he should have some clean air, not have to work his way through the field as much as maybe other drivers will have to. So I definitely like that. And then on DraftKings, we can also go over back to the sports book here, and you can bet top tens or top fives. So there's some top 10 numbers that I do like. I try not to hit this as much with the Daytona. I'm kind of looking at these props more when we get to the other races, but a couple of numbers that stood out today. Bowman again, plus 135 for just the top 10. I like that number in there. Reddick at plus 190. Probably not going to bet that one just because he's not been as consistent. But again, it's Daytona. So, I mean, what do I know? He'll go out there and put up a top 5, but he has shown that upside like I talked about. Ty Gibbs at plus 215, I really like. And then the last one, Eric Jones at plus 215 as well. So that is some outright top 5 bets that I like. And then over to the pick six. So this is what the DraftKings pick six is. It's just your prop bet insight. And what I like is looking at the over under finishing position. I know we used to do prize picks. Unfortunately, prize picks will not allow me to deposit in Canada anymore via PayPal. So I stopped using that service and kind of switched over to the DraftKings pick six. I like their setup a little better anyway, and we got finishing position, so it's pretty much over under finishing positions here. Ryan Blaney, I like better than 8.5, so he has to finish eighth or better. Is kind of how that works. Let's just say Chase Elliott ninth or better, and you have to have one over. You do not. Okay, so that is the big difference for NASCAR that we see here. Is actually I think you do need to have one over, one under. I know you have to do that in golf and any of the props that you pick. So the way I get around that in golf is I like to bet guys over on birdies and under on score. I don't like betting the overs on score, and I don't like betting the overs here. But I'm kind of more of an under guy, or in this case, it's better finishing position than what their lines are here. So Christopher Bell's another one that I like. So there's would be three that I like right there: Bell, Elliott, and Blaney. And like I said, going forward with the cheat sheet, I'm going to have this information probably somewhere over by the model over on this side. I might create a secondary tab that's showing each driver, but I do like to have it on the main tab just so that we can research those prop numbers right side by side, all this data as well. It just makes a lot of sense to have that on the main tab. So if you have any feedback on anything that you'd like to see on the sheet, anything you'd like to see move around, any questions about anything that's on that cheat sheet, any of the data, please hit me up anytime in the chat, in the comments of the video below, in Discord chat, on Twitter. And again, for anyone that's new, looking to get in, grab our DFS NASCAR cheat sheets. We've got a deal going on right now, $5 for the first month. That not only gets you the NASCAR information, that gets you all of our DFS content, 10 plus sports that we cover throughout the year. Everything from college sports to baseball to tennis to all the core major sports. PGA is a big one for us right now. So hit us up with that. You're going to want to go to patreon.com/Jaegerbombs, grab that all sports package and use code Jaeger5. With that, we're going to close things out here. Going to go build some lineups. And if you have any more questions, again, hit me up in Discord. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining in.